Hey YouTube, Dave here. I'm up in the Conrad Weiser State Forest in near Port Clinton, Pennsylvania, and I came up here to a campsite that I was last at back in January, February, something like that. It was a lot colder then. It was a lot less green, and the one nice thing though is that there were a lot less bugs. It's very buggy today. So I came up here to just practice some stuff. I'm gonna put up a little lean-to using my poncho, and not sure if I'm going to do a fire or not. I do have a little Esbit alcohol stove, which I'll show you in a little while, which may just make some coffee for myself, even though it's hot out. So I'm going to set this down and just hopefully you find something interesting. I have here some orange utility cord and some, I forget what brand these are, MSR mini groundhog stakes. I'm going to use a couple of these, 2, maybe 3, to stake out the back of the poncho, and then probably I have some bungee cords, and then some of this cord will also help hold up the front. So I brought with me a couple of bungee cords, which are easier to use than rope if you can find a suitable spot. So we'll give them a try. Okay, so as you can see, I got a basic structure up. I'm going to pull the hood area out a little bit, running some of this line to a tree back there. It's not the most robust shelter in the world, but if some rain pops up, I'll be able to duck under there and it'll keep me dry. Okay, one thing I did was I changed the way that I attached the stakes to the poncho. This is the first time I'm using these stakes, and they don't have a real pronounced hook on the end. They're more of like a tri-lobed section. Let me see. Here we go. So you see they're sort of a tri-lobe cross section. There's a loop on the end that goes through a hole. That's mainly for helping to pull it out. And then there are these notches on the ends. So the grommets didn't really catch very well on those notches. But what I did was I added loops of the orange utility cord, and I'll show you how I did that. So this one's probably easiest to see. So I just tied a simple overhand knot, and then drove the stake in on an angle, and the cord goes into the notches. So this probably would not stand up very well to a serious storm, but for today it's good enough. Then you can see how I have the hood tied off, and then it goes back to that tree. So, this is a simple, basic poncho lean-to. I learned how to do this probably back in the 80s when I was in Civil Air Patrol. We always had to carry a GI poncho. This is an imported copy. I think it was made in China, of course. It's a decent basic shelter. It will keep you mostly out of the weather. There are plenty of other ways to do it. One of the things that we did not have back in the 80s when we were doing this was we didn't carry bungee cords. We always just used parachute cord. And then you see here where I used my trekking pole, since the trees were a bit too far apart. So that's one advantage of carrying a telescoping trekking pole, and of course you can adjust the height. I could even put another one over on the other side. In fact, I may do that just to raise it up a little bit. I think I'll do that right now, actually. So the trekking poles that I have, actually just got these. I'm trying them out for the first time today. They're from REI, the 2016 National Park Service Centennial. And they're made out of aluminum with a cork grip, wrist strap, and then there's a clamp lock that just makes it very easy to adjust the length. And then there's also another one here. The tip on it is tungsten carbide, so it's very wear resistant. It did not come with any kind of a rubber tip for walking on nicer surfaces, but it did come with ski pole type baskets, so that if you're on snow or loose surfaces, they'll work a bit better. And I have those in my bag. There you go. It's got the two trekking poles, 2 bungee cords. I used total of 4 stakes, and then of course some of the utility cord. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clear out some of this undergrowth from underneath of it, so I can actually sit in there without sitting in bushes. For that, I'm going to use a Gerber folding saw. So I have this. It's this is an older model Gerber folding saw. Now, one thing that I did that makes this a lot better than it was when it came from the factory is a friend of mine has a device called a saw set, which allows you to actually set the teeth on a saw, which means kind of bend them out like that. I'm exaggerating a bit, but what that does is it creates a kerf, so that as you're sawing through the wood, the sides of the cut aren't rubbing as much against the blade. It makes it much easier to use, but it also works good for stuff like that. I'll bring the camera in closer so you can get a better view of what I'm doing and actually hear me maybe. So the other thing of interest today is the bag that I'm using. Saw that I have a Hill People Gear kit bag on my chest. That's a Recon kit bag. This is the Tarahumara, which is their small day pack, and I've used it on a few hikes now. The shoulder straps are incredibly comfortable. Highly recommended. The bag itself is extremely well made, and let me show you a few more features of that. So, as I mentioned, I've got a Recon kit bag here. This is, in my experience, the kit bags are the most comfortable way to carry a pistol in the woods. My opinion, they're the most comfortable way to carry a pistol, period. Unfortunately, you look a little odd wearing one of these downtown. Now, the kit bag, or I'm sorry, the Tarahumara is a small bag, and I needed a little bit more capacity today for things like the camera. So what I did was attach to the back of it as a load panel, or not a load panel, a extra pocket, is a Molly sustainment pouch. These are designed to hold a couple of MREs by the military. This is an older one in the woodland camo. It's got 4 PALS loop things on the back, and what I do is I just looped them through the compression straps on the Tarahumara, and that was fine. So in here, actually, let me show you the bag a little bit more. So there are what they call wand pockets on the side. There's a single center zip. The pockets can hold a 32-ounce USGI canteen, or you can use water bottles like I'm using today. This one is an insulated bicycling water bottle from REI. This is an Nalgene. This is a water bottle. As you can see, they provide you with shock cords on the shoulder pads, shoulder straps, and one of the intended uses for these is actually for carrying a bicycle water bottle like this, and it's actually very secure. I've carried a bottle like this on a couple of hikes now. No sign that it was going to dislodge at all. Obviously, you want to keep an eye on the condition of your shock cords, because eventually they'll lose their elasticity. But once that happens, you can simply replace them. It's very easy. This is a look at the shoulder harness, and of course they have really good pictures on their website. It's rather unusual. It could be detached from the pack, and then the pack can be used as a panel on a larger pack, like one of theirs or somebody else's. But it's not super heavily padded, but you're not going to be putting a lot in this bag anyway, and they're very wide, so it really distributes the weight. I find that for me, they're very, very comfortable. There are two sets of the what they call compression straps here, like that. They are removable. They're optional, but I like the belt and suspenders approach of the straps along with the zipper. The zipper is very heavy duty though. Inside, there's no organization. It's just one big compartment. So what I do is I got some small travel pouches from REI to hold my stuff. So for example, this one, I've got my fire kit in here. I've got the cordage kit. This is where I kept the tent stakes. This is a folding pocket trowel for when you need to take care of business in the woods, or if you wanted to dig a Dakota fire hole, that sort of thing. Just some snacks, including my bag of coffee. This is a Easy Act brand 15,000 milliamp hour battery pack, and then also some spare AA's. First aid kit. This is a Sawyer Mini water filter. One of the reasons though I'm carrying 3 bottles of water is because right where I'm at now, I'm up at the top of the hill and all the water's down at the bottom of the hill. So fat loaded good it does me down there. And then some wipes and hand sanitizer. Okay, let's make some coffee, because coffee is good. Always a good idea to carry some gloves in the wood. These are just some leather work gloves that I got at Lowe's, I think. Good for protecting your hands when you're doing things like gathering firewood or whatever. They provide a little bit of insulation. Not a whole lot. So this is an Esbit cookset I got a little while ago. Haven't really had a chance to try it out. One thing I did not bring with me today was a separate cup. So what I'm going to do is I think I'll may just drink out of the pot. We'll see. Or maybe pour the coffee into the pan. Inside the stove, I've got a bandana, some matches, some Esbit hexamine fuel tabs. This stove you can use one of 2 ways. You can use it with either these, I'll show you that in a sec, which would sit on top of this burner, and here's the actual stove itself. So this would go, basically that goes in there like that, and then you put a tablet on top of it, and it's at the correct height to heat the pot. I'm not going to use these today. They do work. They're great for using as a fire starter if you need to, especially if you have wet wood, because they burn for like 10 or 15 minutes. The downside to them is they stink, and they leave like a dark nasty soot on the bottom of your pot, and that's why I have a plastic bag in here. That way, if I do use these and I get it all dirty, then I can put it in the plastic bag and it'll keep the soot from the rest of my gear. But we're not going to use that. What we're going to use is this brass alcohol burner, which is very much like a Trangia, but this is the Esbit brand, and comes with a gasket, so you can actually carry it with fuel inside of it, which I did today. I'm using denatured alcohol that I bought at Lowe's, which is basically ethanol with something in it to make it poisonous so that you can't drink it. They add stuff like methyl alcohol, which is poison, or something else. So this just sits in there like that, and then the pot sits on top, and I'll show you presently. And it also came with a simmer attachment or snuffer, which would be kind of hard to use in there, but may work to snuff it out. You don't want to use the cap to snuff it out because you'll destroy the gasket, which will kind of suck. Nice thing about this pot, it says graduations on the inside. I don't think you can see that, maybe, but you can see them stamped on the outside, but you can read them from the inside. So I'm going to boil about probably a little bit less than 12 ounces of water. Just rinse this out a little bit. Pan also works as a lid, which is good. Let's see how well this works. Yeah, that's burning. You can't see the flame, but it is actually burning. And then pretty soon, as it heats up, the fuel will start coming out through the holes and we'll have actual gas effect. It's going. And now we wait. See how long this takes. Well, it's 6 minutes, and we're at a rolling boil. So let's take that off. See if we can snuff it. It's a little awkward through this hole. So, oh, that worked pretty good doing it that way. Make sure, yeah, it's out. I'll leave that on there for a bit, and then after it's cooled, I can put the cap back on it, and should have fuel for the next time I need it. Nice feature about these. So I'm going to put the coffee in there to steep, and I'm using these, the Folgers singles. Basically it's a tea bag, except it's a coffee bag. Ta-da! And the instructions on these tell you to let it steep for about a minute, and then dip it up and down a few times. They do say that it actually it gets dark before it's actually ready. So even though it may look done, you want to keep letting the coffee soak. And then after I'm done, I've got a Ziploc bag I can put my trash in. So, not exactly what you would want to use normally for a drinking vessel, but it'll do. So, I mentioned earlier that I'm wearing a Hill People Gear Recon kit bag. I also have the original kit bag. I got this one for potential use when I'm cycling because this one is thinner. It only has the main gun compartment, and then it has a slot pocket in the front. That's where I have my keys right now. I've got my iPhone. I have a few other things in here. There's a Bic lighter in an Exotac fire sleeve. A few other things. This is thinner, and just because it holds less, it prevents you from overpacking as much as you can with the original bag. If I was going to be on an extended trip out in the woods, I would take the original bag, just because you may want to have a little bit more stuff with you if you're scouting around your campsite. But this one, as you can see, has PALS webbing on it so that you can attach MOLLE accessories. And so what some people have done is they use this as a bit of a chest rig during, say, a carbine class or a 3-gun match, that sort of thing, because you could actually mount magazine pouches here. What I'm possibly going to do for when I'm using this in the woods is work up some kind of a sheath arrangement that holds my puko on the front attached to the PALS webbing. This is the puko I'm discussing. This is a woods knife from a Finnish maker. This is about as big as I ever really seem to run into and need when I'm out in the woods. If I need a bigger knife than this, really what I need is a saw or a hatchet. So for my needs, I like this. Other people, I get it. You like your choppers. That's cool. It's a free country for the time being. But even when I was in a Civil Air Patrol search and rescue unit back in the 80s, I started out carrying a U.S. Air Force survival knife. After a while, I decided there were a couple things I didn't like about it. One was it was bigger than I needed. And two was I hated the blade geometry. It's too thick for how wide the blade is, and so the grind is very steep, and I didn't like the kind of edge I was getting on it when I sharpened it. And what I wound up carrying instead of that, believe it or not, was a Schrade Bear Paw. This is back when Schrade was still made in the USA. It's basically their version of the classic Buck 110 folding lockback hunting knife, which you can still buy wherever. But it's basically, effectively, it's the same knife. And again, that took care of pretty much everything I needed in the woods. If I needed something bigger, we always had a hatchet or a machete, that sort of thing. So the larger sheath knives with, say, like a 10-inch blade, they can be useful. I get more use out of something this size or even smaller. If you noticed when I was setting up the poncho, I just used my Swiss Army knife that I'm carrying. It's a Swiss Army Victorinox Pioneer 10 or Pioneer X, which is similar to a farmer, except that instead of the saw blade, it has scissors. And that's my normal everyday carry knife, and I find it to be extremely useful. That's about it for today. So, hopefully you found my meandering somewhat interesting. I'm going to take this all apart and start heading back to my truck and start heading on home. Let's see, what time is it? My pocket watch. Anyway, it's about 20 after 4. Still got plenty of daylight because it's August. But I got about an hour and a half ride home. So, time to strike camp. Alright, so this is it, basically rigged for travel. You can see how the the MOLLE sustainment pouch just clips onto those straps, and it actually carries fairly well back there. So this is Dave signing off. Hope you found this somewhat interesting and hopefully somewhat informative, and I'll see you next time. Take care.